Hello and welcome to Community Focus, a public affairs program of KECR Radio with your host, Steve Blessing.
As we head into a new calendar year, two things are pretty common. One, we reflect on the previous year, and two, we look ahead, plan for, even pray about the future. Today's Community Focus is about that future, San Diego's future, in fact, and how you can have an impact. Our guest is Mike Carlisle, Director of Vision San Diego, and one of the many people involved in an initiative called Our Greater San Diego Vision. Mike, thank you so much for being here with us.
Steve, it's my pleasure. I look forward to talking about this.
This Greater San Diego Vision, it's part of a media blitz where people use the Internet to share how they want to live, work, learn, and play in San Diego. It's been happening for about a couple months now.
Actually, it began almost 2 years ago when the idea first came to the San Diego Foundation, which was really interested in bringing together a kind of a democratic view of how to do envisioning. Typically what happens in most cities or counties in the country is you get a few people who have a special interest. They get in a room and they sort of figure out what they want it to look like, and then they try to sell it to the people of the community.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's okay, but sometimes it doesn't really represent what the fabric of the community really wants. And so in the process, they did some surveys and started talking to community leaders. They formed a group, a Regional Vision Council, and they really wanted to try to come up with a process whereby everybody, every segment of the community could be engaged in the things that really mattered about the future of San Diego. So they tried to identify what those big things were, and they actually came up with 4 areas that seem to resonate with everybody based on the research that they've done.
And these 4 areas that you're referring to, Mike, community and culture, learning, future scenarios, so I guess the future of San Diego, and something that is on everybody's mind, I imagine, these days, jobs and the economy.
You bet. Well, here's the big deal, Steve. I mean, when they really looked at it, some of the surprising data that came out of the research was that in the next 40 years, San Diego is, in fact, going to grow by the size of the current city of San Diego, 1.3 million people. And so our whole region, for the whole San Diego County, that's about a 40% growth overall for the whole county. But the surprising thing was, we thought, well, sure, people want to come here at San Diego. Who wouldn't want to live in San Diego?
Sure.
But it wasn't that. Over half, nearly 60% of the growth is going to come from our children and grandchildren, people that already live here who are having their kids, which really created these 4 areas because the fear is in the area that, as we know, is the most expensive city to live in, region to live in the United States, including New York City, San Francisco, and so forth, excluding Hawaii, is San Diego. That's based on the comparison between the average income and the cost of housing.
Wow.
So parents said, okay, well, if our families are going to grow up here, how are they going to get a good job? How are they going to be educated to get a good job and afford to live in the most expensive city or region in America? So we care about that. So that's how this whole thing kind of came together. People began to think about it, and they thought, we don't want to leave. We love this place. We want to stay here. But that means, we're going to have a lot of new jobs, like you said.
So local politicians, they got behind you and the others to work on this. I think that's incredible in itself.
Well, it is. I really have to take my hats off to the San Diego Foundation that kind of sponsored this whole thing because they actually set aside some money. I think they actually had some donations made toward this, of creating a vision that would have traction. Because what happens a lot of times, a lot of envisioning processes occur and they go up on the shelf, and 10 years later they're still up on the shelf. And that's happened in San Diego like it's happened everywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, they thought, how can we take this information and then activate it, put it into action? So the goal is to create a center for community engagement. At the conclusion of all this, that can take the data, take what the people really want to see in San Diego, and help implement that. Working with the other groups, the communities, the county, San Diego. I mean, all those people are already a part of this, but it's just engaging everybody in the process.
And this even includes the faith-based community.
Exactly. And here's the thing. When you look at the way a community or a region works, or a city, 3 things are consistent with every city in the world. They have 3 sectors. They have a private sector, which is businesses, media, arts, entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
Then they have a public sector, which is tax-based government, education, military. Typically, San Diego has a big military, as you know.
Yep.
And then you have a social sector, which is faith-based communities, social agencies like YMCAs, and nonprofits. And so if you're going to implement change, you have to engage everybody. Sometimes the government has been known to think they've got all the answers. You know, our policies will solve the problems, and we all know that's not true. And sometimes even the faith-based community thought, well, you know, we're faith-based, so our faith will solve the problems. Well, it's really commendable and noble, but everybody has to be at the table. So when the foundation began to look at what's the largest group of volunteers, they realized that faith-based community represented the largest single group of people that had something in common in the entire county. So that's kind of how Vision San Diego got involved, because one of our biggest footprints is with the faith-based community.
We are talking with Mike Carlisle. He is, in fact, the director of Vision San Diego, which he just mentioned, and we're talking about our greater San Diego vision. And, Mike, I mentioned this media blitz for the last couple of months. I guess that's more of this Show Your Love San Diego website.
Yeah, showyourlovesd.org.
Okay.
Yeah, people go there in about 10 minutes. This is what's so amazing. It's really a well-thought-out site. In about 10 minutes, you can go in, and there's 4 different categories. Again, you have work, you have play, we have housing,
Mm-hmm.
we have education, and each of those 4 have just a little survey. When you click on one of those buttons, it then just raises up questions. What's your opinion about this? How do you feel about that? It's got some wonderful interactive media to help illustrate it and explain it. So in about 10 minutes, anyone can go and work through any one of those 4, or in fact, you can almost work through all 4 of them in 10 minutes. So it's just an amazing way to get what people really want who live in San Diego.
The community and culture, people were to click on that. How would they share their voice on that? What would they see if they were to click on that?
Well, one of the things that people in San Diego like about living here
Mm-hmm.
is it's just a fabulous place to live. Aside from the weather, which we all know is the best in the West,
Mm-hmm.
best in the world, actually, I think. But there are things like arts and culture. You know, there's certain things here that certain sectors of our San Diego love, and there's a lot of cultural things. Like we have Balboa Park, you know, all these great parks. And we have recreation. We have the beach. We have some parks that are extraordinary, and people that live here now want to know that they're going to be available. So if the region grows by 40%, will those nice features still be available to our children and grandchildren? So what you'll see when you go to that particular one is expressing your opinion about how long do you want it to be in terms of driving time to get to parks and the beach and so forth. And everything works together. You know, if you have increase in businesses, it creates traffic. If you increase traffic, it can take more time to get somewhere. So this is all coordinated so that people who have a preference, let's say they really want to press into the enjoyment part of San Diego, well,
Mm-hmm.
they may have to pay a little bit of a price if they also want to have, you know, increased jobs. So all that's kind of coordinated with little sliders. You can kind of get a ratio feel for what you like for it to be.
All right. Now, future scenarios in San Diego, I believe the website mentioned the next 40 to 50 years. Is the vision behind all of this?
It is. Given the fact that we know it's going to grow by this 1.3 million people, that means it's going to take 500,000 new, well-paying jobs. It's going to take 400,000 new homes. Our kids and their kids are going to stay and raise their families here. And so that raises all kind of questions like, what kind of homes would you want? Do you want smaller homes, larger homes? Do you want single-family units, multifamily units? Do you want more density where we don't take up as much footprint in terms of housing? So all that's listed here, and anyone that goes to the site can express their opinion about what their preference is. That's under the button called Live. You know, there's housing, transportation, cost of living, all those kind of things built into it.
The Show Your Love SD site, how long do people have to access the website and, in fact, give their voice to this?
That's really an important question, Steve, because there's just a limited framework here. January 31st, the option is gone. So we're trying as best we can to really encourage people. In fact, one of the things I'm very excited about is normally, in terms of civic planning and that kind of things, people don't often think about the faith community being at the table for that. They sort of think about, government planners and business people. But with the exception of this time, they've actually invited the whole faith community. I mean, the widest possible definition of that, because they know these are passionate people that care about their area and they have definite ideas. So it's not about our belief system. Here, this is really important because sometimes the things that we believe divide us. And we're not about that. We're trying to find what are the things we care about. You don't have to be a particular faith to care about homelessness or hunger or housing or parks and recreation. We all care about those things. And so here's something the entire faith community has been invited to come, join together, and express their thoughts and opinions and preferences about the future. It's just a marvelous, exceptional moment for the faith community to show how they're engaged in the communities that they love.
When I first heard about this, I thought, okay, here's an opportunity where this allows each and every one of us to really, really have a voice in the future.
That's right, Steve. In fact, it's interesting because leadership of the community, of this county, is really looking at who comes to express their opinion. And so we have a special URL. It's called showyourlovesd.org/faith. And if people type that in, that /faith, it simply tells those that are watching the responses that these are people coming from the faith community of San Diego.
Mm.
And so if that number begins to swell and get large, I can assure you that all future planning is going to want to come back to the faith community because they've responded so well.
So again, that's showyourlovesd.org/faith.
Faith, right. All lowercase, doesn't have to be uppercase.
And you say the deadline for this is January 31st.
31st, yes.
Are there any results from any of this that you can share with us right now, or is it too early?
Yeah, I wish I could, Steve. I'm standing on my tiptoes wanting to know myself, but no, they actually don't publish anything until after everyone has responded. And at this point, my prayer and hope is that our faith community families and friends all across San Diego County will show themselves strong in really responding to this great opportunity.
What else could you say to encourage people to, is there anything else you could say to encourage people to take this step and
there
get
is.
involved?
Yeah, I mean, when you think about, again, how regions work, let's take the public sector. The public sector is the group that makes the rules. They pass the ordinances. They make the laws. And so if you have a sense of being supportive and you're engaged, really engaged, the whole public sector looks at that and say, wow, if we're going to pass rules and laws and ordinances and so forth, we really need to be sure these people are part of that. And I think that's something that's uniquely important about this opportunity. If we show ourselves strong in the faith community, then our government leaders, our county leaders, our city leaders, all 18 cities, are going to know that the faith community really represents a strong presence here. It's not just a political thing. It's really a personal, caring thing, and they, as wise leaders, will have to take that into account for all future kind of projects. They're going to want to know, what do these people think?
You've been listening to Community Focus with your host, Steve Blessing. Community Focus is a production of the Public Affairs Department of KECR Radio. For more information on the topics and issues discussed on this program, call area code 619-390-3481. That's 619-390-3481. You can also write us at Community Focus, care of KECR Radio, 11865 Merino Avenue, Lakeside, California, 92040. Again, that address is 11865 Merino Avenue, Lakeside, California, 92040. Or you can also reach us by email at communityfocus@nethere.com. We welcome your comments, suggestions, and program ideas. The views expressed on this program are those of the host and guests and do not necessarily reflect those of Family Radio or KECR. Until next time, thank you for listening, and may God bless you.